Hi, I'm Sarah Welcher, and I'll be showing a church located in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. This church is called St. Elizabeth of Hungary Catholic Church, built by Richard Cairns. This church is very unique in that the walk from the bell tower to the church includes the 14 Stations of the Cross in Italian marble on the right side. This church is relatively small and still holds masses weekly. Cairns was inspired for the design of the church by the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Turkey, also known as St. Sophia's Church. St. Elizabeth's Catholic Church was dedicated in 1909 and has since been restored in the 1950s by Italian sculptor Cecchi Mario. This church was initially started by Father Michael Smythe, a missionary priest stationed in Fort Smith in the year 1880. It took until 1882 for the frame church to actually be completed. Parts of this frame church were later moved from Fairmont Street to Crescent Drive in Eureka Springs. Richard Cairns also built the chapel in remembrance of his mother Elizabeth. Cairns was also a builder of the Crescent Hotel located up the hill across the street from the church in Eureka Springs. This church is valued very much for its religious significance. As a Catholic church, it holds importance to Catholics and their practices as a place of worship and solemnity. Unlike some objects and practices important to Catholics, these buildings where Mass is held hold importance to the people as a place that God is most present and available to the people in the building. The church is designed using a lot of balance in the structures and visible features of the building. The doors and windows are symmetrical in some places, and even when not symmetrical, they're the same size and shape in general, so that the building as a whole seems balanced from the inside and the outside. The hues of the church are bright and vibrant through the stained glass windows on the left and right sides of the church, as well as smaller stained glass windows above the doors and on the far walls. The intensity of the colors vary throughout the day and night. At night, the colors are less intense because of the dim lighting in and around the church, while during the day, the colors can be very intense with the sun shining through the windows and into the building. The texture of the building is firm and matte. It is hard and can be cold rather than warm because of the main materials used in construction, which were not steel or wood, but rather bricks and rocks. St. Elizabeth's Church is best described with the iconographic methodology. The content of the building of the church itself is very important to understanding the meaning behind the church. The church itself may not be a written text, however, it does have underlying meanings in its structure. An example of underlying meaning in the church include the 14 Stations of the Cross. To a person who is not a member of the Catholic Church, they may not understand the meaning behind the stations, but may just see pictures made out of marble. In reality, those 14 marble pictures are telling the story of Jesus' road to dying and rising again. Another example of underlying meaning in the church building itself includes the tabernacle at the front of the church and the altar in front of the tabernacle. These objects are symbols in the Catholic Church that may not be used in other churches and may not make sense to those non-Catholics viewing the church. These objects symbolize a place for the body of Christ to be placed in the form of bread after being blessed during Mass, as well as a place for the consecration of the sacrament. These iconographic elements of the church are visible to the outside world, but not fully known or understood to the members not belonging to the church. St. Elizabeth of Hungary Catholic Church best falls into the category of Impressionism. Impressionism is commonly associated with 19th century France. However, it applies to this particular work of architecture because of the vibrant colors used within the building. This is particularly evident in the stained glass windows. The church was built including styles of an almost incomplete look, which occurs in many stained glass portrayals. This causes the church to fall into the Impressionism category. During the time period that the church was built in the early 1900s, art was taking a new turn toward portraying the thoughts of the artist more than the ideals, previously thought to be mandatory and correct. Architects at this time were able to get inspiration from places around the globe and add it to their imagination more and more as they pleased. Another impressionist quality is pronounced surface texture. St. Elizabeth's contains a lot of pronounced surface texture. An example of this surface texture is the arches inside the church. The church is a dome shape on the top, so the insides of the ceilings include arches. These arches are decorated with bricks and rocks that give the architecture a texture that could not be achieved had the ceiling been flat or pointed. The curve of the ceiling allows for deception of the eye to make the space seem bigger than it would had it just been corners instead of round. Another example of the impressionist quality of surface texture is the stained glass. Stained glass is something that looks textured because of the shapes included in the art, but also has a different texture than brick and wood due to the reshaping that the glass undergoes before being placed in the artwork. I chose to analyze this building for a few reasons, the main being that I have been to it once before and was taken back by the beauty and intricacies of the church. It is also very interesting because of the semicircle shape instead of a rectangle like the rest on the small scale stained glass window above the front door. This unique factor of the building is another reason why I chose to study this church, and is a reason why it's so amazing to be able to see a church in a city and a town with so much history, art, and pride to show.